Newcastle. Cisse. Oh, that is sensational.
مساء الخير جميعا. يتجدد لقاءنا Newcastle show, Newcastle with Alwaleed. I would like to welcome our friend Martin, all the way from Ireland.
Martin is a family lad and a Newcastle supporter over 35 years. Season ticket holder until 1999 when he moved to work in Dublin, Ireland. Nothing matched Martin's passion for football like his passion to rugby. And one more thing, Martin is famous in imitating popular celebrities. You can see Martin in UFC Matters shows with Steve Reed in Matchday Live and worldwide in UFC fans around the world.
Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we're doing well.
Good. Thanks very much. That was a great intro. I think Steve Reed definitely looks a little bit better than me. I think I need to. Maybe the beard is not so good. Maybe.
Yeah.
Very good.
Welcome, Martin. We are very glad that you're joining us tonight. We want to know more, little more about you during this broadcast. And actually, I have some questions to start. But my first question I really want to know is what's about rugby?
Rugby is probably my second passion, my second sport. So I used to play rugby at school, obviously a very, very long time ago. I was lucky enough to live overseas, and I lived most of my early schoolhood days living in New Zealand. So rugby is obviously a major sport in schools, and obviously the All Blacks in New Zealand, famous rugby team. So pretty much through school, all I played was rugby. Didn't really play too much football or soccer. So rugby's always been a sport I've really enjoyed. Obviously England last year in the World Cup final against South Africa, and Ireland, of course, have a very, very good rugby team. So the main stadium here in Dublin, I try and get down to as many rugby games as I can. So the local team in Dublin is Leinster, which is the province, and Ireland, obviously, the main rugby team. So I try and get down to as many games as I can for the rugby every season, and I try and get to home and away games where I can. So because I don't get to the football as much back home in England, I've kind of got more into the rugby. So yeah, so I like the rugby a lot. So yeah, different kind of ball. But yeah, good sport and good entertainment.
Speaking of different, can you tell us and the fans who doesn't have much idea about rugby, what is the main difference between American football and rugby? There is much different except the outfit or the uniform.
Yeah, the obviously rugby players no shoulder pads and no protection, so a lot harder. And a lot rougher.
Especially without the helmet.
No helmet. Yeah. So if you look at some of the great rugby players from the team, so the All Blacks, the likes of Richie McCaw, guys like that, and then you look at the Ireland team. So you have Peter O'Mahony, you have obviously O'Connor, you have Connor and the guys. You obviously have Johnny Sexton, so it's a much tougher game, much harder on the body. From a rugby player's perspective, the game time is very narrow. The lifetime of playing rugby, it's quite a short career because of the injuries and the injury toll on the body. So it's quite a very short career. So a lot of ex-rugby players here in Ireland go on to do broadcasting, so YouTube, TV, radio, and so on. So yeah, but it can be a very rough game. In particular, games England versus Ireland in the rugby, the Six Nations every year, is always a very good game because there's a lot of passion and a lot of energy, and it's always a very it's a high octane game. So very enjoyable. If you like the rough and tumble, and lots of points being scored, it's a really good sport. It's good for the kids as well. So my one of my youngest lads plays a little bit of rugby and a little bit of Gaelic, which is the Irish football. So yeah, we try.
What is the best national team? Like in soccer or football, the best national team, I think Brazil in history. Who's the best in rugby?
In rugby, for me, it has to be the All Blacks. The New Zealand All Blacks are the best team for me. And obviously, I grew up there, so I was lucky enough to see the All Blacks play a good few times. But I think probably a lot of years ago, probably what they call Southern Hemisphere rugby, so i.e. the likes of South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, would have been a much higher level probably than Northern Hemisphere rugby, England and France, Scotland, Ireland. But I think those levels have come back. England and Ireland have done really well. Obviously, England were in the World Cup final there last year, and obviously, Ireland have done really well in the Six Nations. So I think those levels are coming down. But I think for me, as just a team that is unrivaled in its sport, kind of like in basketball, you have the Chicago Bulls. In football, you have, depending on who you support, you might have Liverpool or Manchester United, Rangers or Celtic in Scotland. But in rugby, for me, the All Blacks are kind of the epitome of the top of their sport.
How about national teams?
National teams.
Who's the best?
For me, I go and watch Leinster. So if you live in Ireland, there's really 3 teams, so there or 4 teams. So you have Leinster, which is the province where I live. The further south in Ireland, you have Munster. The west of Ireland, you have Connacht, and in the north of Ireland, you have Ulster. So they're the 4 provinces, and they battle out through. They play in a league every season in a rugby league, but they play against Scottish teams. They play against French teams. So, but Leinster have been European champions for many years now, barring a couple of French teams. Saracens beat them last year, an English team. So there's really in the European rugby game, there's 5 or 6 teams that really excel. But Leinster have always been a standout team, not because they're local to me and they're Irish, but again, like the All Blacks, they are at the top of their game and elite in their sports. So.
What about the player you have fought with in the report, Rowan, I think, or?
Yeah, okay. So that is one of Ireland's all-time point scorers, goal kickers. A guy called Ronan O'Gara. So his nickname in Ireland is Rog. He has retired now for a while, but he was an outstanding player both for Munster province, but for Ireland as a rugby team. And I was lucky enough through my work. So for those that don't know, I work for an international company. I work for Fifes, who sell bananas and pineapples and melons all around the world. So we have a Fifes in Dubai. We have Fifes in North America. We have all of our Fifes farms in Central America. So Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic.
Caribbean area.
All around that area. So we have farms where we harvest and produce all of our bananas, and then we ship them across the world. So I work for Fifes, and he came to our company and done a talk on sports and about sports management and about managing teams and developing teams and all that kind. So it's kind of like a welfare talk on how to manage people and how to get the best out of your teams and everything. So I was lucky enough to meet him, get an autograph and get my photograph taken with him. So for me, it's one of those tick the boxes and meeting one of your heroes. So very, very, very lucky to have met him. Very honored.
Very cool. Let's see what's when you start Newcastle fan and supporting the club back in Newcastle when you were there.
Yeah, first ever game. I think I've said this on some of the chats. The first ever game I went to was Oh, first ever game I went to was back in 1986. It was a league game. I was 16. So yeah, don't make me feel old, Alwaleed. Come on now.
Sorry.
Evil, Alwaleed, evil.
Yeah. L looks about 12, so don't say nothing. Yeah. But yeah, 1986. It was February the 7th, 1986. A Saturday afternoon game. It was a game against Luton Town, in the, I think back then, the first division. It was a 2-2 draw, and Peter Jackson and Paul Goddard were the goal scorers for Newcastle. So a 2-2 draw. But at that game, first game, and my granddad, God rest his soul, has passed away. He took me to my first ever game in 1986, and I can remember climbing the stairs in St James's Park in the Gallagher end and seeing the greenest grass that I had ever seen on the pitch. And we played out a 2-2 draw, and Paul Goddard, or Sarge as he was nicknamed, scored the second goal for Newcastle, and he was a striker. I was probably one of my first idols in a black and white shirt. So that was my first game, and then, as you said in your intro, I was pretty much a season ticket holder until 1999, till I moved to Ireland. I kept it for about a year after, sharing with a friend, but I started to get a lot of work in Dublin, and it was harder to get home and travel and work and trying to juggle everything. So I didn't get home as much, but up until that point, pretty much most seasons I was going to all of the games, home and away. So I had a good, certainly a good from 89, say 86 to 99. So a good few years, a good 13, 14 years. So I was lucky to see some really good teams, the Entertainers and First Division Championships. Lucky enough to see players like Gascoigne and Beardsley, Waddle, through to Ferdinand, Shearer, Ginola, Lee Clark, and then into some of the modern day teams. So very, very, very lucky. Better era than it is now, game wise.
Yeah.
If anyone of the fans who want to ask Martin a question, we'll answer it at the end of the show. What is the previous or your legend in Newcastle, and for nowadays also as well?
This is a good question, because I've literally just done the show with Steve for one of the Christmas shows. So many to choose from. If I had to choose, probably my modern day hero, I would say most likely Alan Shearer. His goal scoring record, and obviously just being a true Geordie, and the epitome of the badge and the black and white shirt. I think he would be my modern day hero. If I had to go back, I would probably, for me, not too far back, but I would say probably Peter Beardsley was probably one of my all-time heroes. I said when we did the show the other week, I think he was just a magician with the ball. He could get a ball and run kind of 20 yards into a large group of players, and you would think, okay, he's going to get tackled or he's going to lose the ball, and he would kind of jink one way, turn another way, put the ball through someone's legs, and come out between 5 players and put the ball in the net. And I don't think, other than maybe say the likes of Robert or ASM when he's on a good day, I don't think we've ever really had a player in that position who's been such a magician with the ball and being able to create something out of nothing. So Beardsley, probably my midterm hero. Alan Shearer, first age hero going to the game, was probably Paul Goddard, because he was a striker. He scored goals. He looked good in a black and white shirt. He was the first real memory I have as a fan going to St James's. So three heroes, maybe 3 heroes.
سماد يروح البارت الثاني.
Yeah. So you lived in Newcastle in 1999.
I did, yeah. I had a year when I was transitioning between Newcastle and Dublin. So few weeks in Dublin, back home to Newcastle, few weeks in Dublin, back home to Newcastle. So the end of 99 into 2000, I moved to Dublin full time.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you lived in Newcastle, but you are still supporter of Newcastle. Because I know many people, like, when they leave their cities, they forget their their local team.
Yeah, I've a few friends. One of the guys I used to work with, the guy who I follow on Twitter, Mark Byers, has one of the things he said to me when I left Ireland when I left to move to Ireland was, you never ever forget your roots, kid, and that's something that I haven't forgot. Newcastle, it will always be my home. Dublin is where I live, but Newcastle is my city, my people, my home, my team. So, I like the rugby, and I like to watch other teams play football. At the minute, I like watching Spurs play. I like Jose Mourinho. I think he's a really good manager. I'd love to see him come to Newcastle one day, maybe.
Hopefully.
I really enjoy sport, but yeah, Newcastle is as bad as we can be at times, and as much as I hate them at times when we lose, and they make me sad and but they're still my team. That's my city.
Yeah. Respect. Yeah, and regarding Newcastle, we are going now to talk about Newcastle and the Premier League.
And unfortunately, we have to leave the legendary days and talk about right now.
So well. It was going so well.
We have to. Sorry, Martin. So let's start with the Leeds game. What's your opinion, Leeds game?
Yeah, it was awful. We obviously took the lead. In a good goal, a good build up. Obviously, scored the goal. Obviously, Leeds then came back. The picture there really just epitomizes where we were at the end of the game. We were caught short. Our players didn't track back. It didn't look like we put in effort. I think we all knew, Alwaleed, we had spoken on the show before. I think we knew that Leeds were going to play some really good football. We knew that they were going to attack. They were going to come with pace. Belise is a really good coach. They've got good tactics. They've got, I think Newcastle have better players, but we know we just don't have a good coach. So I think we knew what we, as pundits and as fans and panelists, I think with the Leeds game, we all knew what to expect, but it just seems that obviously Steve Bruce and his management team didn't seem to have as much information about the game as we did. So I think, at a point where it was 2-2, we were still kind of being played off the park. We were unlucky not to be more down at that stage. But the second half, the third goal for me was a shocker. We made a lot of individual mistakes between, Murphy, Lewis, Longstaff. So I think I was quite critical of Sean Longstaff on Twitter this week. I didn't think he put a huge amount of effort in. I thought our midfield was quite lazy and laboured. I think we've seen a lot of games where we pass into midfield. We don't seem to look to pass forward. We pass sideways and backwards, and there was just no connection between the midfield and the front two in Joe Linton and Wilson. Wilson needs to be serviced if he's going to score goals. I think he's a fantastic player, a real steal at 20 million. I think Joe Linton was off his game again. He's had a good couple of games. I was starting to think maybe there's a turning point with Joe Linton, but he was very light-footed on the game against Leeds. I thought Kieran Clark was probably one of the better players on the pitch for me. He took his goal really well, and he when he got the ball, he seemed to stride through midfield really strongly and quite capable. But other than that, I thought our midfield was non-existent. You can argue that Shelby and Longstaff are two of the better passers in the team and will get passes off. But I think one of the damning statistics I saw was that Leeds goalkeeper made more individual passes to a player than any one of the Newcastle players. And I think if that's not a statistic that we should be proud of as a team. And I've seen the likes of Hayden and Wilson and a couple of other players come out over the last couple of days and say it wasn't good enough. Well, do you know what, lads? Yeah, it wasn't good enough. It was shocking. So, Bruce seem to have this pattern at the moment where we draw a game, we lose a game, Bruce gets a lucky win, and we kind of paper over the wounds for a little while. We won 2 on the bounce, and then we've lost heavily again. So we seem to be in this routine of the same pattern. We win 1, we lose 1, we get hammered. We win 1, we draw a couple, we lose hammered. So it wasn't good. I think as a Newcastle fan, against Leeds, yeah, they're a good team. They play some great football. All credit to them, but we shouldn't be getting beaten.
The scenario of the match was like similar to the game against Manchester United. Last 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Bruce's comments on the press conference today is, we were holding our own, and for 75 minutes we played really well. I wouldn't say we played really well. I think we were probably lucky not to be further down. But when you've got 5 Leeds, if you look at the 4th goal, when Leeds broke forward from our corner, they had 6 players in white shirts breaking their necks, sprinting like there's the picture there. 6 players breaking their neck to get forward, sprinting past our defenders and our midfield, and not one of our players were jogging. So to me, they're either unfit or they just don't want to play for that coach. They don't want to play for Steve Bruce, or they don't want to play for each other. So I was quite critical of the team a few weeks back, and I asked the question, Alwaleed, when we were on the international show, and I said, I question whether Steve Bruce maintains the harmony in the dressing room. Has he lost the dressing room? And, we got a couple of wins and we didn't really talk about it too much, but I've raised the question again today on Twitter. Has Steve Bruce lost those players? Something is wrong. Something is not right with that team to go down that heavy, a 5-2 defeat in that manner, and for it to be happening regular, for those players not to want to get back up that pitch and be, for want of a better word, as lazy as some of them were. There's something wrong, guys. Maybe I'm wrong with my verdict, but there's something not right with the players. Something definitely not.
If you can put the picture again, Alwaleed. So, Martin, you are telling me you're a fan of Jose Mourinho, huh?
I like Mourinho as a coach. I like the.
I understand that after I watched this picture. After I saw this picture.
The thing with Mourinho, there's a very good saying, which is, if you look at Mourinho, he's had some hard times at clubs, in particular, likes of Man United. But for me, Jose Mourinho is a serial winner. You got to look at everything he's won, and his record is unbelievable. So for me, he still won things at Manchester United. He got sacked from Manchester United. But for me, with Mourinho, class is permanent, form is temporary. So Mourinho has always been and is always a fantastic manager. He's one of the world's.
I'm a fan of Mourinho as well. I do like him.
So I think, every manager has blips in their career where it doesn't go so well. But he's won at every club he's gone to. So would I like to see him at Newcastle? Absolutely. And I think he has a soft spot for Newcastle because of Bobby Robson. So I think he has an affection for Newcastle. So hopefully one day he'll be a little
and he's a big fan of Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even when he was in Serie A in La Liga, he always thinking of Premier League.
And have think for Newcastle and Sir Bobby Robson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think he likes it. He always does well. There was a clip not so long back when he won I think for the first time at St James's in a long time, and he passed the statue of Sir Bobby in the hallway, and he stopped in front of the statue and said, I won for the first time, Mr. Robson. So I think there's a huge respect there. There's a huge admiration for Sir Bobby Robson and for Newcastle as a club and for everything that Sir Bobby did with him as a coach in Barcelona and Porto and stuff. So I would love to see him come to Newcastle one day. That would be a maybe take over and maybe Jose Mourinho maybe.
We'll go to take over later. I watched tonight the Three Amigos, and I see the lads talking about it's good boy, and they said it's something like the score the real score doesn't reflect the real match. We were close when it was 2-2, but 5-2 doesn't reflect in the match. What do you think of this, Martin?
Yeah, I think it's hard. You could look at that last 15 minutes and say we crumbled, but again, I think that capitulation, that crumbling and falling apart. The same thing happened again against Manchester United. We were in the game. If you want to call it in the game, we weren't playing really well. We were in the game at 2-2 with Leeds, but they still had a lot more possession than we did. So, I think what the guys are trying to say is, we had that reflective spell at 2-2, but the last 15 minutes probably didn't reflect the first 40 or 45. But I think the way that the game ended is probably indicative and is probably symptomatic of what we are as a team at the moment. So it probably doesn't reflect what we could be as a team. And I think, I said earlier in the opening of the show, I think we've got better players than Leeds. I mean, they're a championship squad that's come up, but what they've got is they've got a great coach. They've got a belief in play. They've got tactics, and they've got a style of play and a definition. And we don't have that. We keep chopping and changing. We keep swapping players in and swapping players out. We keep changing whether we play 5 at the back or whether we play 4-4-2, whether we play 4-2-3-1. There's no consistency. There's no identity for us as a team at the moment. Whereas I think Leeds might play that same style of football every game, and they might lose against Manchester City or they might lose against Liverpool. But Belise doesn't change his philosophy. His philosophy stays the same, which is football at pace, passing, movement, and pace on the ball. And we, he sticks with that routine every single game. But we as a club and as a team, we don't have that. What is our identity? What's our formation? What do we play? Do we play 2 up front? Is Joe Linton just behind? Where does Gale play? Does Murphy play? Does ASM play? So nobody every week, Alwaleed, we go on the live show. We have no idea what the formation is going to be. We're waiting to see when they come on the pitch what's the formation.
Randomness.
So, random, exactly. That's exactly it, El. So we have, for me, our problem is the any good team needs to have consistency. So for me, we need to have consistency. To get consistency, you need to play the same 11 players, and you need to get that formula. I watched an old clip of Rafa talking to Jamie Carragher from a couple of seasons back, and he said about when he came into the club, he had to work out with the players what was the best positioning, where did Dummett fit in, where did where did Gale fit in. And he had to work out what those players' best formations and where the strengths were. That he knew that Jamal Lascelles' strength was in the air at the back. He knew that Dummett could play at left back, but he could get forward to cover Richie when Richie burst forward. So Rafa was able to work out all of those strengths. We don't see that with Steve Bruce. What we see is a chop and change of players. Players who are I think personally, are being picked on team selection because some of those are his favourites, more so than players in form. And my example of that would be John Joe Shelby. John Joe Shelby has not really played that well this season, but he gets in the team ahead of other players. Do we have other better players for midfield? You know, I think you've got players like Richie. You know, we keep playing Hendrick out of position. We're playing him on the wing. He's a midfielder. He's not a winger. So if we continually keep playing, you know, centre-backs at right-back, midfielders as wingers, when we've got Fraser on the bench, I don't understand. I just don't understand Steve Bruce's team collection sometimes. And I don't think why we keep changing those positions and those players around. I don't think we'll ever get the consistency. So I think we need to keep the same, find out who our 11 are, get that consistency with the team and stick with it, but find our identity. And if we went out with the best 11 and we gave it 100% work rate and we'd lost at Leeds 5-2, I could accept that defeat. It's when we don't try, and it's when our players don't run back and put in effort and we lose 5-2 to Leeds. I can't accept that as a fan.
The weird thing for me, we were doing so good. When we reach the draw, when it was 2-2, what happened suddenly make the spaces? We waste most of the time of the game defending. What happened in the last 15 minutes, you think, to leave this kind of spaces as we see here? Well, what happened? Why?
Yeah.
Are we were thinking about to getting the game, to win the game? Why we left these spaces?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, Alwaleed. I think we know that we don't get the coaching from the management team from the sideline. You know, Bruce is, you know, we've all seen Steve Bruce is very, you know, unanimated from the sidelines. Hands in his pockets. You know, Steve Agnew might point or do a few things, but Steve Bruce is very unanimated. I think the players lose focus. If you look at that goal there where you showed the picture, that came from a corner where we had a corner. So at some point when you play that ball in for a corner, but you lose possession of that football or you lose possession on that corner and nothing is going to come from that play or at that moment, you need to switch back on and go, okay, I need to get back into formation. We need to get back, push back into midfield. We need to drop back. We need to regain our strengths and our positions. But what we did was we stayed on the Leeds goal line, hoping that the ball might drop to us, that they might make a mistake, that we might score a goal. So for me, it's lack of concentration. It's an understanding of game management. It's a lack of coaching from the sideline. When we lose possession and we need to reshape and reform ourselves, we don't switch on. That switch isn't coming on for me. And what that does is it leaves, as we've seen, it leaves very big gaps between our forward line, our defensive line, and our midfield. And, you know, we sometimes see that when we're playing offensive football. You know, again, we've spoken on the Matchday Lives. Sometimes when we play 5-5-3-2 or 4-2-3-1, we have these huge gaps between our defensive line and our midfield line where players play in between our two lines and they have so much time to pick up the ball, get a ball played into them, turn, look around and play a ball off. How do we not have a man right up against him? How are we not getting tackles in? Our tackling statistics this season are horrendous. They're woeful. I think the game before against Manchester United, one of the statistics was we made 12 tackles the first half against Manchester United. 12 tackles. Guys, that's really, really
horrible.
I don't understand it. You know, maybe you guys understand it more. I don't know.
All right. Let's. What do you think tomorrow game? And not just tomorrow game. Yani, after Fulham, we have
Liverpool and Man City.
We have those teams in a row.
Yeah, that's a.
I think they are the best two teams now.
So
in the Premier
for me,
League.
I think we must do something tomorrow. What do you think, Martin?
I think tomorrow will be. A draw. So my prediction for tomorrow is 1-1. I think both teams will score. But I think a draw.
Why?
I just think after the Leeds game, I'm worried about how we set up. Sorry, that's my son chasing a dog in the background. I think I worry about setting up and how I worry about which formation he's going to play firstly, and then I worry which players he's going to play. If we play the same midfield as we played and the same formation, the same way we played against Leeds in the last 20 minutes, then it could be a problem for us. Go on, Canoe. It could be a problem for us. Who does he start up front? I'd like to see maybe Gale and Wilson start. I think he'll start Joe Linton again, but I think there could be a little something there with Gale and Wilson. But I think we need to see that as a partnership. We've spoken time before about would we give Gale another contract? Long term he's not the answer. Short term probably yes, but he does have an eye for goal, and he can score goals if he gets service. And I think he understands where Wilson might run, or where to play a ball for Wilson to run into. And I think Wilson understands where Gale might run to. So I think that's something I'd like to see. So maybe there's an opportunity there tomorrow for maybe a Gale and Wilson partnership. I think Fraser has to start for me, and Murphy on the wings. I think at the back, Jamal Lewis, I think his confidence is a bit low at the moment. He's made a couple of individual mistakes, but he's young, he's learning. So I think it will be hard maybe to drop him. I think he needs encouragement and he needs game time, but I think, his confidence is low. Fernandez and Clark at the back, I think, is our best partnership at the moment. And then, the right back, is it Kraft, or does he play Hayden again? So I think it will depend on, but I think Mitrovic, obviously for Fulham. So, ex-Newcastle players always seem to do really well against us. And they've got a young lad, Lookman, who plays for Fulham, who I really, really like. He's a quality player. And I think he could be quite a dangerous player for Fulham against us. Their results are mixed. They've had a few wins, a few losses. So their form is a bit like ours. They win one, they lose a couple, they get a bit of a hammering. So I think we're very similar. So from that perspective, I've gone with the draw. I think we'll be very similar.
For me, I notice when we put the pressure, the media, the fans, against the players and Steve Bruce in particular, I notice we're doing much better in the game, and we win. So I expect this time we're gonna win against Fulham.
Okay.
But I am actually worried that we have to take the 3 points, because obviously I think we are not gonna get any point from these people.
Yeah.
What do you think, Martin? Are we gonna getting some points from Lever and City?
No, me personally, guys, I can't see us getting anything from those 2 games. Now,
yeah,
we've had a couple of wins against Manchester City over recent times, but I in our current capacity with the current team, I can't see that happening. I think Spurs should have beaten Liverpool in the game the other night. I thought Spurs were the better team, but 90th, 86th minute, Liverpool come up with a winner with Firmino. Liverpool have got so many good players on the pitch. Salah, Henderson in midfield.
Mane.
They've got Mane.
Unless if there was a scenario similar to Tottenham match.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Liverpool could have an off day at Manchester City, but I think for me, Manchester City with Sterling, De Bruyne, Gabriel Jesus, I just think they've got too much. And I think, if you look at the way Leeds tore us apart through the midfield, I think we'll be completely outwitted in midfield, and I think that's where we'll lose it. I think the pace that Liverpool will have with Mane and Salah, I think we will do well. I think I can see Bruce reverting back to 5 at the back for those 2 games. I think he'll change the formation again because I think he'll look to limit the damage. So, yeah, I think Fulham, I think I would love to see us take the 3 points off Fulham. But I think the draw, I just think we're very similar as teams with our form at the moment. But I think the next two games, I don't really see us getting anything from.
And we have Leicester City in the beginning of the year. Opening.
Yeah, Leicester. Again, look, we've gone to Leicester and we've won. But again, I think, if they play Jose Perez, again, Newcastle players seem to come back to haunt us. Jamie Vardy, look, scores goal for fun. He's got pace. He's an England goal scorer. He's starting to put goals in at the moment. They've got a really good midfield. Brendan Rodgers, I really like as a manager. I think he was a great manager with Liverpool. He was obviously good in Celtic. Scottish League is a lot different to the Premier League, but I think Brendan Rodgers is a very, very clever manager, and I think he's got Leicester really, really ticking. I think they're in second or third in the league, I think, at the moment. So I think the Leicester game will be another hard game for us. I really do. So I think Fulham could be a crucial point. I think the blessing we have on side with this season is that, luckily enough, there seems to be teams who are a lot worse than we are. So I think from an overall Premier League season, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll get our 40 points and I think we'll be safe. I think Sheffield United look pretty much doomed at the moment unless they turn the second half of their season round. Sam Allardyce has gone to West Brom. Will he give them that new manager kind of kick on for a few games? But if the bottom 4 or 5 start to put a run together, I can't see Arsenal being down there for the rest of the season. I think they'll come good. So I think it's important, that we do pick up points against the lower league position in the likes of the West Broms and the Fulhams and the Sheffield Uniteds, because I think last few seasons we haven't done that. We've kind of relied on picking up points off the big teams, and we've kind of lost games against the Sheffield Uniteds and stuff. So I think this year, I think we're going to be a lot more dependent on picking up points from those teams around us. But I think we'll be okay.
All right, that's all for Premier League.
Yeah, now the Carabao Cup.
Quickly, let's talk a few minutes about Carabao Cup. Of course, we are in quarter-final. The teams are Brentford against Newcastle on Tuesday, 22 December. This is coming soon. Arsenal City, Stoke City, Tottenham, Everton, and Man United. Your expectation and your opinion about Brentford game, Martin?
I mean, it's a game you would say we have to win. We should win. We must win. But Brentford are a lot different of an opposition than Newport County and Morecambe. We didn't really play that well against them. It took us to penalties in the last match we played. Obviously, Brentford signed another ex-Newcastle player in Ivan Toney. He's on fire, scoring goals for fun. It would not surprise me to see him score against us. It would be just like us to do that. I think it's a game we should win. It's Newcastle Premier League against Brentford Championship. It's a game we should win. Will we win the game? Who knows? Which Newcastle will turn up? Will the Newcastle that plays a half decent game against West Brom turn up, or will Newcastle who falls apart against Leeds in the second half turn up? None of us know. I think we should win the game. But I think Brentford have some good players. I think I was looking earlier on at their season. They're 6th in the Championship. Their last 5 games, they have 2 wins and 3 draws. So they're not losing that many. They've got good form. Ivan Toney is one of the top scorers in the Championship. So it'll be a tough game for us, and they'll be up for it. They've got nothing to lose. If you take a Premier League scalp, they've got a big glamour tie, with one of the teams afterwards. So, it's really for us to go out there and win it. If Brentford go out and lose, they'll say, well, you'd expect Newcastle to win. If Brentford go out there and win, Newcastle will be the worst thing on the planet again. So I think it'll be a tough game. I think it'll be a lot tougher than Morecambe and Newport. And I think we need to show them respect, but I think we need to show them that we are Premier League and we are Newcastle United.
Yeah, I agree with you. Inshallah, Newcastle will win. But how do you see the chance of Newcastle if he wins?
How far will go? How far will we go in this cup?
Put the teams back up there again for me, Alwaleed. City, Arsenal. Okay, Stoke, Tottenham. Okay, so really what you want is a Newcastle win, maybe an Arsenal win because they're not so great at the moment, a Stoke win and an Everton win, yeah? So, look.
Okay.
It's a cup competition. I think, we've got to be respectful of all the other teams that are there. They're there in quarterfinals. Yeah. We'd be going to a semi-final, so I don't think there's any bad teams. So I think, it's great to be on a cup run. My only fear would be if we did, God willing, get through to a semi-final, does it distract from our Premier League form? If we get an injury to Wilson, what does that do for the remainder of our season if he gets a serious injury? So there are concerns in having a prolonged cup run if our form in the Premier League doesn't get past this whole kind of win-lose-draw scenario. Next round, if we get through, you obviously probably want to avoid Man City and probably Tottenham. So
I agree with you.
Arsenal or Stoke or Everton or Man United at the moment. So just for me, avoid Manchester City and Tottenham at the moment.
I totally agree with you, 100%.
I think they're the two form teams for me at the moment. Yeah. Manchester City maybe not firing on all cylinders at the moment. Maybe something not quite right with them, but I think they'd still have way too much.
Strong team.
But I think Spurs are probably the informed team along with Liverpool at the moment. Manchester United six wins for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer recently. So they're kind of finding their feet as well, up to 6 in the Premier League. So there's no easy teams I think left in there. So let's beat Brentford first, and then let's enjoy the semi-final and who we get and hope.
I wish if at least we reach the final.
Yeah, it would be great.
Newcastle into the final. I saw Tottenham and Chelsea in this cup. I think Mourinho really wants this cup, so I expect Tottenham will get the cup. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think. Look, we said before Mourinho is a serial winner, so Solskjaer, whilst he hasn't really won anything, he's got that mentality as a player. He won the treble under Sir Alex Ferguson. Obviously, scored a very, very famous goal in the treble winning in the Champions League final. So there's a lot of players. Pep Guardiola, Barcelona, his days there, and in Bayern Munich. Look, these guys are savage, serious, serial winners. So we've got Steve Bruce. Let's hope he keeps his luck and we get through.
All right. Speaking of the best manager in Premier League, Steve Bruce.
You're not Bruce anymore.
Actually, it's our last topic before a question.
Yeah.
So I would like to. Do you think? Let's talk. What do you think he will do in the next games? He will change. He will listen to the some of the experts' opinion in the media and the fans, or he's gonna still just get back to the old formation, swapping between two formation he have. What do you think he will do in the next?
I think he'll be. I think he will be exactly the same. Alwaleed. I think he will chop and change. His comments today in the press conference were, it takes time to change and to create his style of play. He's here at Newcastle 18 months now. What have we identified as our change of play? What have we identified as our style? We spoke earlier on in one of the questions. We don't have a style or identity. So I think he will revert to type. I think he will change. I think he'll change formation. He'll probably bring in 2 or 3 players for the Brentford game. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he maybe rested Wilson and started with Joe Linton and maybe Gale, and maybe had Wilson on the bench. I think that might be the right thing to do. I think he'll probably play the same formation against Brentford, probably the same against Fulham, 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1 with Joe Linton maybe just behind Wilson. I think against Liverpool and Manchester City, I think he'll go back to 5 at the back with the wing backs, because I think he'll try and protect. But that back 5 for me still is problematic, because you need your midfielders to be able to defend as well as be able to pass. So that transitional play between defending and holding the midfield, and as an example, Hayden as a defensive centre midfielder in front of that back 4 or 5, who then are your 2 creative midfielders, or your 3 creative midfielders? Probably 2 and 2 wingers, or 3 across the middle. So he could play Hendrick on the wing again. I think definitely over the next 2-3 games, Fraser has to start. I thought he played really well the other day. So for me, I think he has to start definitely against Fulham. But I think he'll chop and change, Alwaleed. I don't think he'll revert to listening what the media says. I don't think he really listens to pundits. I don't think he really listens to, certainly probably doesn't look really what's on social media or anything else. So I think he will just be him, and I think we'll see changes, and I think you'll see, in particular with Liverpool and Manchester City, if we start to lose the game early on, we will see that there is no plan B as usual. So I hope I'm wrong, but I think we can only judge it on what we've seen in the 18 months that Steve Bruce has been manager. So I don't expect any drastic formation changes. I think he'll either play the 5-3-2 or a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-1, I think.
For me, he always look hopeless, and we're not doing nothing, almost nothing, especially the important time. The coach have to interfere, have to guide and instruct the players. I just see him when the camera is on, just drinking some water, and that's it.
Yeah, I suppose for me, one of the questions I would have is, what was Steve Bruce's reaction in the dressing room after the Leeds game? Did he go into that dressing room and do an Alex Ferguson and kick a football boot at somebody's head? Did he get angry? Did he shout at the players? Did he bring them in the following day for extra training? I can't imagine that he did that. I think he probably went in there, said a few words, and then got on the bus. I just can't see him going in there with those players and getting really angry, like an Alex Ferguson would have done, or like a Mourinho would do with his players, and have a real rant at half time and go, it's just not good enough. I just don't think he's that kind of manager. I think he likes to be friendly with the players. He likes to keep them happy and put his favorite players into the team, and so I don't think he is that kind of manager. I think he very much likes to keep everybody happy. And you can't do that when players are not playing well. They need to be told, they need to be managed. So I can't see it changing. So
I think
because they are not
hear
going to play to have fun.
Yeah, I think he's got his favourites players, like the likes of Shelby and the likes of Longstaff and probably Joe Linton. I think he has the same names, the 4 or 5 names he puts on the team sheet every single game, and then I think he fills the gaps with the rest of it where he can. So he doesn't manage when it's on the pitch, and I think for me, I worry that the timing of it, when things are going wrong, he seems to sit and wait rather than make a change quickly when he sees things are going wrong. And I think the other thing that with Steve Bruce I don't like is when he does his press conferences, and in particular when he does the chat with the pundits before the start of the matches. As the manager of Newcastle, my team, I think he pays our opponents way too much respect. He's always saying, I hope we can get something against them. They're a really good team. You know, they play really good football. I don't want to hear my manager for my team complimenting the other team. I want to hear my manager complimenting my team and my players.
Maybe this is for sedation, just to make them feel sedated.
Yeah, I think the only people he's sedating is us, Alwaleed. I think that's all. Like, you know, I don't want to see that from manager. I want him to be maybe, you know, like Mourinho. I want him to see him be a bit angry, be a bit defensive, and go, do you know what? Yeah, we're here to beat Leeds. We're here to, you know, we're going out there today to beat West Brom. I've picked a team, and we are going out there to beat Brentford on Tuesday. And he never does that. He never kind of goes for the jugular and says, I've put a team out there and we're going to win. He pays our opponents way too much respect. And I really don't like that in him when he does his press conferences and stuff. So I'd like to see that changed. I'd like him to be more direct and say, you know, a bit more Mr. Angry than Mr. Bruce, maybe. And, you know, a bit more fired up for us as a team rather than paying other teams too much respect, because I think he does. He pays other teams too much respect and says, you know, I hope we can win. I hope we can get something. That's not good enough. We should win, and we will win, not hope.
Okay. Before the question, we have a report. We'll watch it now and get back to you.
Yep.
This report talking about some fans in Saudi Sports Street, in the coffee shops, watching the Premier League, and they get a chance to talk to them and ask them some question about Newcastle, Premier League, and takeover.
Okay.
طيب كيف نيوكاسل؟ تابعت السنة هذه ولا لا؟
لا صراحة ما تابعته. لا بأس كويس، بس فريق ينقص أشياء كثيرة. أشوف إنه والله ستيل عليه على قولتهم مشاكل كثيرة في الدفاع.
أمانة لا والله ما تابعت، لكن أشوف السعوديين يعني في حرص كبير إنه بعد ما تتم الصفقة إن شاء الله شراء النادي إنهم يتابعونه. يعني
مين فريقك في الدوري الإنجليزي؟
أرسنال،
تشيلسي، البلوز. شجعنا أرسنال.
توتنهام.
إن شاء الله إذا تمت الصفقة، وهل ممكن تسافر نيوكاسل وتحضر مباراة هناك في ملعب سان جيمس بارك؟
نحضرها ليش لا؟
مثلا نيوكاسل وإيفرتون الموضوع بيشدني شوي. يمكن إن شاء الله.
أكيد واي نوت أحضر.
في حال تمت صفقة شراء نيوكاسل من قبل صندوق الاستثمار السعودي، هل راح تشجع نيوكاسل؟
شلون صعب صراحة. قدام تشيلسي لا، بس الباقيين
مستحيل طبعا، لكن بيكون تقدر تسميه الفريق ثاني يعني. اكيد القلب ما دام الفريق السعودي اكيد اني بشجع ان شاء الله ضمن
يمين.
لا أرسنال.
ما في لا مباراة ثانية غير أرسنال.
أكيد راح أهتم إنه والله مثلا يلعب نيوكاسل.
طيب لاعب سعودي تتمنى تشوفه في نيوكاسل أو في الدوري الإنجليزي؟
عمار صغير، ستيل على قولتهم عنده قدامه يعني مشوار طويل.
مين تتوقع بطل الدوري الإنجليزي هذه السنة؟
سنة السيتي للأسف.
كيف شايف المدرب ستيف بروس مع نيوكاسل هذا الموسم؟
ستيف بروس أنا والله ما تابعت على قولتهم، كنت أتابع أيام هال سيتي، كان يعني يوصل الفريق للميد تيبل على قولتهم. يس يعني ما هو ذاك المدرب اللي والله مثلا يمكن كابيتالايز انه والله مثلا يعدل من اوضاع الفريق، عنده على قولتهم خطط انه والله مثلا يعني ما وصل مع مثلا هال سيتي ولا مع ساندرلاند في ايام يعني، وايام كانت الفرق قويه هال سيتي وساندرلاند، ما وصل وقدم معهم يعني على قولتهم المواسم. اعتقد انه هبط، اظن ساندرلاند كان هو مدربهم بعد لما هبطوا ساندرلاند اذا ما خاب ظني. فكان مدرب يعني كويس لا بأس فيه، يعني من التيبيكال انجلش على قولتهم مانجرز زي سام الدايس وزي اللي قبله ألان باردو. اعتقد ألان باردو كان كويس، كان حريص جدا ويجيب لعيبه فرنسيين. كمدرب الحين موجود يمكن ايدي هاو مع بورنموث كويس صراحه. ممكن يحتاج الفريق على قولتهم مدرب عنده يعني مدرب صغير عنده افكار، خلاص نيوكاسل تشبع من المدربين الانجليز اللي هم تبكل والله بس وصلوا الميد تيبل وخلاص. فيعني في مثلا اعتقد اللي حق هوفنهايم اللي الحين ماسك لايبزيج، شو اسمه هو نيجلسمان اعتقد او شيء زي كذا، يعني ون اوف ذا بيست موجود ويانج وقاعد يوصل الفرق بشكل كويس.
طيب
هذا
رافا بينيتيز محبوب في نيوكاسل.
اي رافا كويس يس، بس انا ستيل يعني ما اشوف انه والله مثلا مقارنه بالحين. فعلا الفتره الحاليه هي فتره مدربين صغار عندهم عندهم نفس وعندهم والله خطط جديده يطبقونها، لان الحين فعليا اللي قاعد يعني يظهر في الكوره كلها خطط جديده، تبكل 442 والاشياء هذه، الخطط القديمه
عف عليها الزمن،
خلاص عف عليها الزمن. وفي نفس الوقت يعني صارت الامور اعقد من انه والله مثلا يكون فيها خطط تقليديه، لازم والله يكون فيها على قولتهم خطط جديده. لهذا قاعد نشوفه مثلا مع جوارديولا، مع ارتيتا، مع كلوب، هذا اللي قاعد نشوفه الحين حاليا.
Last fan, his name is Tariq, and I noticed he know too much about Newcastle and Premier League. And actually, I asked him to be in the show later. What do you think when he said Steve Bruce, he's mid-table coach? And second question, is it right he was coaching Sunderland and went with them to Championship?
Yeah, he was with Sunderland and Hull City and a few hours. Yeah, Birmingham City, Aston Villa. So yeah, Bruce has been with a few clubs. His record as a coach is fairly similar. Alwaleed across all the clubs. Aston Villa is one that stands out. Very, very similar. Had a half decent start. Results started to go the wrong way. Fans became disillusioned. Playing players out of different positions. No real game plan. So if you look at Aston Villa on Twitter and you talk to a few of their fans, they'll tell you what we're seeing at Newcastle with Steve Bruce is no different to what they had in Aston Villa. Same obviously in with Sunderland. So yeah, I think the guy you interviewed is absolutely correct. I think unfortunately Steve Bruce, whilst we wait for a takeover, I can't see Mike Ashley changing managers. You know, likes of Nagelsmann and some of the managers he was speaking about, you know, would be fantastic. I think we do need a young, dynamic, up-and-coming manager. I think we need different ideas. And, you know, if you look at Jurgen Klopp, you know, with Dortmund and now Liverpool, you know, fantastic coach, different ideas, different game philosophy. If you look at the guy at Southampton, again, you know, Southampton didn't start the league off so well, but you know, he's really started to get Southampton playing really well. So there are coaches out there. I think, you know, probably I would imagine the consortium kind of have an idea of who they want. You know, Pochettino was rumored, but you know, I've seen some rumors over the weekend that you know, they're still quite keen as well, maybe to bring Rafa Benitez back. You know, Rafa's obviously got history, and you know, I think a majority of fans would take Rafa back in a heartbeat. And I think he's got unfinished business with Newcastle with his project. You know, on getting the club some silverware. But if I could have a choice of manager, I don't think Ashley's going to change at the moment. So I think what we have is what we have. I think the only time that's going to change is if Newcastle as a club are in perilous situation of being relegated, and Mike Ashley is in trouble of damaging his investment, or we get the takeover and the PIF and Amanda Staveley decide to bring in a new manager, possibly Pochettino. I think probably Rafa Benitez would be more their kind of coach, I think. So that for me, Nagelsmann would be great. I'd also, for me personally, one of the players I would like to, one of the coaches I'd like to see would also, in my mind, would be Allegri. I think Allegri would be a really good coach for us. But yeah, I think the European game, and I think football as a game has changed, and I think you can see Mourinho and Klopp and Guardiola. Bruce is of a dynasty and unfortunately a dinosaur of a manager that we have. So hopefully we get movement on the takeover in the new year and after Christmas, and we can maybe do this show again in February, and hopefully we've got a new Saudi owners and a new manager maybe.
So what did you wish for Christmas, Martin?
It's there on the left-hand side one, Alwaleed, just a takeover.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I'd love a takeover to happen. Love it.
Yeah,
of course,
inshallah.
all we are and waiting this moment so much. Before we go into question, if anyone have a question for Martin, we'll play the introduction. Maybe who didn't catch it at the beginning.
Martin is a family lad and a Newcastle supporter over 35 years. Season ticket holder until 1999 when he moved to work in Dublin, Ireland. Nothing matched Martin's passion for football like his passion to rugby. And one more thing, Martin is famous in imitating popular celebrities. You can see Martin in UFC Matters shows with Steve Reed in Matchday Live and worldwide in UFC fans around the world.
Martin, you need a break before the question. It seemed very hard.
No, go bring it on. I'm ready.
We can take a break if you like for 1 minute.
No, I am all good. All good.
Maybe you need the break, Alwaleed, huh?
No, it's okay.
His coffee's gone cold, yeah?
All right. Okay. Our when we, inshallah, after the takeover, when we are going to Newcastle, first thing, just remember me, first thing I want to go to David Weller, and I will take photo with David Weller. Please remind me. He always asks us in every show same question
about the takeover.
Quickly, Martin, your perspective for the takeover with late news.
Yeah, obviously we seen the news yesterday where the Premier League have signed a new deal with beIN Sports. I think you could take that news two ways. I think you can look at it negatively and go, okay, well then, Saudi Arabia are not part of that deal, and there's still issues with beIN, but I also look at the political side of it, and that there's a lot of work going on with Saudi Arabia and Qatar to put their differences of 3 years behind them, and there's a lot of hope, I think, in those differences being reconciled. So the deal with the Premier League with beIN, for me, I don't think is as big an issue. I don't think it really has a lot to do with the takeover. So I wasn't overly concerned seeing it yesterday, because if the takeover does work its way through, I think that Saudi and Qatar working out their problems will allow beIN to be screened in Saudi, because Saudi, the people of Saudi, it's one of beIN's biggest screening populations. So
yeah,
why would beIN Sports not want to screen themselves and have their programs in Saudi? So I agree with you. I hope the diplomatic pieces can be resolved between Saudi and Qatar. It looks like that's becoming very positive, which will be good for all. But for me, I think the takeover will happen. I've always been fairly confident that it will happen. I think we know we've got a willing buyer, and we've got in PIF and in PIF and Amanda and the Rubens, we've got willing buyers. So I think late January, early February time, I would like to think that we see the takeover, and hopefully early enough for the back end of the January window, but if not, definitely for the second half of the season. So I still believe it will go through, maybe slightly restructured, but I think it will go through. I think that the Premier League will not want to go to a legal battle with Mr. DeMarco and the rest of the legal team. So I think we will see movement in the new year.
Inshallah.
For me, I think BN news, it will not affect any. It's no big difference because they have already 2 years, so they just extend it. So it doesn't matter if 2 years. I think if the takeover inshallah will happen, it will happen. It doesn't matter of the who will air the Premier League.
I think you can, Alwaleed, I think you can take the BN piece and you can spin it positively and say maybe BN know that there's already some movement on the takeover, and that by signing the new MENA deal in the Gulf region, that they know they're going to be able to screen BN Sports in Saudi. Who knows? Maybe that piece of the puzzle has already been resolved, and it takes away the piracy issues and everything else that goes in it. So let's take it as a positive piece rather than a negative piece. Look, there'll be people on social media will say takeover is not going to happen. BN's piece is damaging, but you know what? It's Christmas. Be happy. Let's wish for the best, and let's remain hopeful and positive that the deal goes through.
Dog Girl said best player I have seen, Gaza.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see Gaza play a lot of times. But again, Gaza was a fantastic player, was world class, but sometimes didn't have the right mentality all the time to be as good a player as he could have been. So I think he had all the attributes to be an absolute world superstar, but sometimes didn't have the mindset to apply himself, unfortunately. So yeah, Gaza, great player, but for me, Peter Beardsley was a much better player for me.
Mike Ashley is believed to have sent a clear message to Newcastle United would be buyers ahead of 2021 following this week end of the year Premier League meeting between shareholders.
Yeah, so I know on that the vote on the deal for BN Sports, Newcastle United were the only team in the shareholders meeting that rejected that deal. So I think what Tom means there is that with Mike Ashley and Newcastle saying no to the deal, it showed their continued respect and partnership with PIF and the business with Saudi Arabia and the government. So I think that's what he means there, and I think that's where that strength, that unity comes from. So I think that was Mike Ashley's message to the Premier League, which was really just another stick to poke the Premier League and Richard's Masters with, which was just to say no to the BN deal, even though it went through, but to ensure, I think, that Saudi Arabia knows that Newcastle United and Mike Ashley in particular are fully with Saudi Arabia.
Premier League chief Richard Master has announced his delight agreeing on new broadcast. Okay, sports. Okay, we'll talk about that. Next game: Fulham, Brentford, Man City, Liverpool, Leicester, Arsenal, Sheffield, Arsenal again in Premier League, Leeds.
Okay.
Maybe Leeds. I'm not sure. Everton. How many points we will get?
Okay, so
That's
Fulham
hard,
1-1, so I'll take a point from Fulham. Brentford in the cup, I think we'll win. What were the other ones there? Throw them back up, Alwaleed. Manchester City, nothing. Liverpool, nothing. Leicester, I think a point. Arsenal, 3 points. Sheffield United, 3 points. And then Arsenal and Leeds again, if that's at the beginning of after the new year and stuff. If Arsenal is still as bad, maybe another 3 points. Leeds at home, tough game. If Leeds play again the way they did, we'll probably lose. And Everton are hit and miss, so I'll take a draw with Everton. So 1, 2, 5, maybe 8 points.
But I see you confident, very confident against Arsenal. Are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely. Arsenal will be lowest in the league. Mikel Arteta's really struggling. Aubameyang not scoring. I think Arsenal have problems this season. Whether Arteta stays and the Arsenal board keep him there for a long time, I don't know. Probably they will, because I think he only recently signed a new deal. So, but I think Arsenal have problems. I think Arsenal will struggle for a little while yet. So if we play them at the right time while they're still struggling, then I think we can beat them.
Could you start a learning Arabic session? A sentence used in football? I think this is for you, Martin, right?
Is it? Oh, I know very, very little Arabic apart from when I came on this evening. So no, I think the Arabic session, I think that's a podcast opportunity for Elle to start doing Arabic to English lessons for all Geordies after the takeover.
Arabic Geordie.
Yeah,
Arabic
so we can
actually we have many ideas, but it's always after the takeover. So stay tuned.
Maybe before. Let's get prepared before the takeover. So yeah, Alwaleed and Elle's English Arabic lessons for Georgia.
Maybe we will do sharing group session. Maybe we teach Arabic, you teach us Geordies. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a deal. After Christmas, that's a deal.
Very cool. Steve Bruce believes next month transfer window could be quietest. One yet, but Newcastle United head coach is monitoring those players who will be out of contract next summer. Do you think we will get someone in January, Martin?
I don't think we'll buy anybody. I think it'll be loan players. I think he'll need to release some players. So I don't expect us to go out. I mean, I'd like to see us go maybe the likes of Josh King from Bournemouth, maybe on a loan deal, and put him in with Callum Wilson. They had a really, really good partnership for Bournemouth. Really understand each other. Obviously, with Fraser there and Richie on the opposite wing. But I don't think Steve Bruce will be given the money. I think all the time that we wait for the takeover and that the legal business is going on behind the scenes with Nick DeMarco and the Premier League, I don't think Mike Ashley will give Steve Bruce another 40 or 50 million to spend on players. So I think it'll be a case of having to move on some players, the likes of Atsu and Yedlin and maybe one or two others, which I think we'll struggle with, but maybe cutting some contracts. And I think it'll be loan deals only. So I think we desperately need somebody in midfield. I think we're screaming out for some kind of a creative midfield player. I just don't think we have it. I think somebody put up a comment there saying Shelby's been awful. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Shelby has been awful. He is a good passer of the ball, but it's one great Hollywood pass in every 3 games. So there's no consistency with Shelby for me. So yeah, I think we need to look at our midfield in January for me.
Can you imagine Keegan back in the 90s ever saying some of the things Steve Bruce says in his press conference before the games? I certainly couldn't imagine.
No, it would never have happened. Keegan was always front foot in that. It was he didn't think about the other team. He put his team out. They were the best team. They played for the shirt. They played for the 52,000 in the stadium. They played for the city. They played for the black and white. They played for, uncles, aunts, brothers, mothers, sisters of Newcastle. So, no, Kevin Keegan would never repeat some of the things. He would certainly never say, "I hope we get something." Keegan was a believer in the positive.
Our friend Rich. Hi, Rich. How are you? Evening, lads. Bruce is at best championship manager. Sheffield Wednesday, I think. We're laughing all the way to the bank when we give them compensation for him.
Yeah, he is. Look, his track record, I think Rich is absolutely right. His track record has been pretty much championship clubs. Look, I get it. I don't want to. I think Bruch has his coaching problems. I don't dislike him as a person. I don't dislike him as, as a man. I just don't think he's the coach for us. I think we can get better and should have better. But I understand. He's a Newcastle lad born in the area. It's his hometown club. He got an opportunity to come home and manage his hometown club. So, I get that. And that's a great fairy tale. But 18 months on, man, we're still as bad as we were when he came. So,
he got his chance.
Yeah, he's had his chance. And look, that time will come for him to move on. As I said, I don't think it'll happen while the takeover is progressing. I can't see Ashley moving him on unless by some chance the takeover is slower than we think, and Ashley's club is in doubt. Excuse me.
Linton is improving quicker than Bruce.
That's a statement.
Yeah. Martin, who are your favorite Newcastle players of all times?
Like I said before, Peter Beardsley, probably my all-time favorite. Shearer. Defensively, I liked Brian Kilcline or Killer Kilcline. I like John Beresford. Going back even further, obviously Malcolm MacDonald, Terry Hibbert, Chris Waddle. So I have a lot of favourite players. Kevin Keegan obviously ranks up there, not only as a player for what he did for the club, but also as a manager. So yeah, look, probably the same as most Newcastle fans out there. I've a lot of admiration for old, new, and current players. So yeah, Keegan, Beardsley, and Shearer. There you go, top three.
What does Bruce need to do to turn things around at Newcastle? Do you think Newcastle need strengthening in midfield? If so, who do you think Newcastle should sign to strengthen midfield?
What does Bruce need to do? Yeah, I don't think there's anything in Bruce to change it up dramatically. I think he is what he is, so I don't think we're going to see anything. Is he going to become Pep Guardiola or Mourinho overnight? No, he's not. So look, let's be realistic. He is what he is. I think we'll see this continued vein of win, lose, draw, win a couple, lose a couple, get a hammering. I think we've seen it for the last 18 months. So why is anything going to change? I think Keith, to answer Keith's question, I think we need to strengthen midfield. I think we lack creativity. So for me, I would like us to see a really good creative midfield player coming in. The problem is who's out there. Who do you get on loan? There's not that many out there on loan. I know on the Steve Rates on the ladies' night, I mentioned about Jack Wilshere on a pay-as-you-play deal, on a loan deal. Would he add a bit of creativity? A lot of people said he had injury problems. Would he offer a bit more than we've got there now? Should Matty Longstaff be playing? So who do we get? I'd like to see them go out, maybe look for Josh King as a bit of a backup towards Wilson. Do we need to bring in another striker? Probably. But again, I don't think he will. Will somebody come in for Gale during the transfer window if he stays fit? Would the likes of a West Brom or somebody come in for Gale? Maybe. So will Steve Bruce have to go out and look for another striker on loan? Possibly. But yeah, midfield for me, we've got to go out and we've got to strengthen midfield. I think that has to be our priority this January window.
For me, I wish if we have someone look like Bruno Fernandes in Manchester United, someone who can. Manchester United is very bad this season, but Bruno saved them a lot with his way of connection. He's like a coach in the field. I think we need someone, even if half a level of Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, Fernandes has come into Manchester United and really found his feet. I like him. I think he's a fantastic player. His pass for Manchester United's second goal, I think it was last night or the night before, a blind pass around the corner to Martial, I think was probably one of the best balls of the season so far. He's a quality player, 2-footed, can see a pass, takes a good penalty, box to box. Every ball is going into him. I think one of the standout things for me with Fernandes is he's always looking for the ball. He's always showing for the ball. He's got his hands up. To me, it's what you want, and he's high octane, big energy, can see a pass. And I think one of the interesting things for me watching the Manchester United game the other night is Paul Pogba seems to be coming back into form again a bit, playing alongside Fernandes. So maybe Pogba and Fernandes midfield is maybe going to start to furrow to show a little bit of good luck for Ollie and Manchester United fans in the next while. But yeah, Fernandes is class player.
Who do you think someone close to his level or we can see in Newcastle? Do you think someone might be available in January or?
Yeah, I think the problem is a good creative midfielder like that is like a good striker. They're very, very hard to get a hold of, and the ones you can get a hold of cost mega amounts of money. So I think we've got to be realistic in the player I do like. If we had a bit of money, and we could go out there with a deal, the player who played against us for West Brom last weekend, Callum Gallagher, I think it is, plays in the number 7 for West Brom. I thought he was outstanding for West Brom. So he to me had a really, really good game, high energy. Looks like he's got a real energy about him as a midfielder. He was box to box. He had the most touches of possession on the whole pitch across all players. So I think if we could go out and have a look at somebody like him, Callum Gallagher, I think would be a real option for us. But I don't know whether he would be somebody that's on Steve Bruce's radar. But if we don't go out and get that guy, you mark my words, in a couple of seasons, one of the big guys are going to go out and get Callum Gallagher, and I think he will be a player for the future.
His name Callum Robson, right? Robinson.
There's no Gallagher. Hang on, it's Gallagher. I don't know his first name. Maybe I have his first name wrong, but his last name is Gallagher.
Okay, no problem.
Where he playing?
He's playing in midfield, West Bromwich Albion.
West Bromwich Albion.
He played against it in the game the other night, and he was unlucky not to score. He's a really, really good player. I've seen him a couple of times this season. He looks to be a quality midfielder. So we should try go get him.
Yeah, I think his name is Conor Gallagher.
Yeah, that's him. Conor Gallagher, that's it. Close.
Yeah.
He's
young. 20 years.
Yeah, he's a young player.
Yeah.
2-3 years, somebody else big will have him, and he'll be. He's like, to me, he's like in Manchester City. They have a young England under 23 player. Phil Foden is an absolutely outstanding midfield player. And he's getting his game for Manchester City now. Gallagher is a good player. Has really good signs of being a top class midfielder. So if West Brom keeps struggling, it will be interesting to see does one of the teams go after him if he has a really good season. So maybe the end of the season, but definitely a player to watch for me this season.
When we are gonna end this season?
Where will we end this season? I think we'll get out 40 points. I think we will be where we always are, maybe 13th or 14th. 14th.
Yeah. I expect from 11 to 14.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love a top 10, but I don't think, unless we stick with that formation and get a good spine to the team, or unless the takeover happens the end of January, then I think we'll be our usual. Probably with a few games to go, we'll get our 40 points, and I think maybe 13th, 14th this season, 12th maybe. So 13th, 14th.
What do you think, El? Where are gonna end?
Somewhere between 10th and 13th.
Yeah, I agree. 13, lucky number.
Yeah, like last year, Newcastle was near to get to go to the Europe League, but suddenly 12th,
Yeah,
13th.
I think the thing with the Premier League at the minute is if you can get a couple of runs, if you can get a couple of wins going, I think what we're seeing at the moment is everybody in the league is beating everybody else. You know,
Liverpool.
That's the beauty of Premier League.
Yeah. When you know, Spurs were probably expected to win at home. Were probably expected to win that game as being the more informed team against Liverpool, and Liverpool beat them.
Fulham draw against Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. Manchester City lost the other week. You know, Manchester United win, but then they lose one. So it's like everybody seems to be beating everybody at the moment. You know, we're 6-7 points or 10 points off the bottom three, but we're 7 points off top four. So it's like the league is crazy. Everybody is beating everybody. So if you could, if we could put a good, let's get past Liverpool and Manchester City, and maybe as we start to go back around the likes of the West Broms and Sheffield United.
Yeah, I just see now 3 points between Man City and Newcastle.
Yeah, there you go. So 2 or 3, and you can be up in the European spots. So the league is crazy. So but we've got to get. For me, I said earlier in the show, we've got to get the consistency with players and I get an identity and get a style, and stop messing with the formation.
What's the best formation now with the player, you think?
For me, it's 4-4-2. 4-4-2 with 2 outright wingers. So for me, I think Jamal Lewis, for me at the minute, has to stay. I think he's a young lad. He's learning his trade. He's made a couple of mistakes, but he's only young. So I'm not gonna slate him or give him a hard time. I think he's got to learn. Our central defensive pairing for me is Fernandes and Kieran Clark. I don't think Lascelles should walk straight back in, but I think Steve Bruce will bring him straight back in because I think Lascelles is one of his favourites. The right back I think is anywhere between Manquillo and Kraft. So for me, it would be Manquillo. But again, he could put Yedlin there, so it's hard to know. But Kraft seems to get the game. He could also play Richie there if he wanted to. He could play Hayden there. Midfield, I think for me is either Hayden and Hendrick, or Hayden and Shelby. Longstaff, I think, has regressed a bit since Rafa. I don't understand why Matty's not getting a game. For my 2 wingers, I would have Fraser and Murphy, or Fraser and Richie. And then my front 2 would probably rotate between Wilson and Joe Linton, or Wilson and Almiron, probably. And I know some people will be going about, what about ASM? He's not in form for me at the moment. He hasn't played well since he got his new contract. And there is definitely something going on with him and Steve Bruce. So I would not be surprised if you don't see ASM back this side of Christmas. I think.
Speaking of ASM, a question appeared tonight. Where is he? Does he have COVID? Does he have problems? Is he transferred in January? What do you think? What's that fuss about?
I don't know if he has COVID. I think there's a fallout there between him and Bruce. So I think there's something between the two of them. Maybe ASM has said he wants to play in a certain position, and Bruce wants to play him somewhere else. So me personally, I don't think he has COVID. I know Bruce has said some players are still unwell, but I'm not convinced it's with COVID. So I think there has been a bit of a falling out between ASM and Steve Bruce, and that's why he's not been in the squad. I think Matty Longstaff was the same when Matty Longstaff had the talks around contracts and stuff. I think Steve Bruce made a decision: if you're not signing, you're not playing, and that's why we've not seen Matty getting a game. We've had some awful midfield games with Longstaff, Shelby, and Hayden and Hendrick. We've had some really bad games in midfield, and Matty Longstaff hasn't got a game at all. Why is that? I think he pissed the manager off. I think he's upset Bruce not signing the contract, and I think ASM is the same. I think ASM has spoken out, and I think he's been put to one side. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him not play this side of Christmas. Maybe in the cup game if he's well, but I don't think we'll see him in the Premier League until the new year.
But I think if it's a problem, as you said, it will appear to the media right away.
Yeah,
will
well,
not be like this black out. We don't know.
Yeah, well, I think I've seen on now I don't know whether it's true or not, but I've seen on some Twitter posts that he was apparently ASM was apparently seen in one of the local shopping centres. So if he has COVID, he shouldn't be there. So from what I've read, and again, look, could be people on Twitter, but I've seen a few tweets saying that he has been seen locally. So if he's been seen in a shopping centre, it would indicate to me that he's either got a knock or is unfit and can't play, or there's a bit of a fallout with the coach. I think it's the second. I think there's a bit of a fallout there. Hope I'm wrong, and it doesn't lead to being installed in January, because that wouldn't surprise me either. See him sold.
Who will be regulated, do you think? Or is it early to tell?
If Sheffield United, I actually thought, I watched again the game against Manchester United. I thought Sheffield United played okay. I thought they were to go 2-1 down. I thought they were unlucky. The third goal, I think, was probably just Sheffield United having their little capitulation. So for me, I think bottom three for me: Sheffield United, West Brom, and Fulham. There you
go. West Bromwich now.
West Brom. Who did I say? West Brom, Fulham, and Sheffield United.
So who's the Leeds? Leeds will stay. So you think from the camp?
Leeds will stay up. Yeah. And the Premier League needs Leeds, because otherwise, when will Newcastle have another derby if we stay up? No sign of Sunderland coming back.
Have a great Christmas, New Year, happy holidays all.
Thanks, Keith.
Conor Gallagher run the middle of the park. Okay.
Yeah.
If Newcastle beat Brentford in the Carabao Cup, who would you like to have?
Stoke.
Stoke, of course. But is he gonna win against Tottenham? I don't think so.
How about Arsenal?
Yeah, I'll take Arsenal. Yeah, just stay away from Spurs and Manchester City.
Yeah, Man City. Yeah.
He's a Chelsea player.
He is a Chelsea player.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah. Depends who Chelsea buy, but I think if you are, I think the likes of Chelsea have the likes of Mason Mount, and then they've got Havertz, and they've got others. So, obviously Gallagher is one for Chelsea's future, but at 20 he's very young and he's getting Premiership games now. So maybe a good offer. In the summer transfer window, you might just get him. But definitely, Rich is right. Player to watch. One to watch.
Let's comment. Before go to you, Martin. We want to ask for your opinion. I watch Liam Kennedy last show with the Dutch Day Tuesday with Steve Rake, and he mentioned his opinion about the quietness, and there is no news. For most of the fans, it's frustrated. But from his perspective, he said it's like it's good to have this quietness means something, that there is meetings and negotiating being going. What's your stand?
Yeah, no, I think Liam's right. I know on Twitter for a while back there, there was a lot of negative comments about Liam. Maybe leading fans on and being not being in the know account, and it's nonsense. I think he's a top class reporter. I think he definitely, look, we know he definitely has contacts in the right places. I think his columns in the South Shields Gazette and the show he does with Steve, I think is one of the good show, the best shows out there. So I think he's 100% right. I think if you look at the unfortunate thing with Newcastle in the takeover attempts we've had is they've all been played out in the public eye, because we have on Twitter, we have the people who are focused on watching Company's House and seeing our developments happening there, and a new director's being appointed, and is somebody going to make sure MBS is appointed, or all these things. Then we've got other people on Twitter who are watching Mike Ashley's plane fly around, and Mike Ashley's plane is going into Saudi, but no, it's going to Abu Dhabi, and it's landed in Dubai, and so everything seems to play out wide in the open for Newcastle. And obviously, when Liam and the guys broke news of the takeover had stalled and PIF had walked away, obviously for most Newcastle fans it was devastating. We want this takeover to happen, so when obviously word came back out through Liam and back into it that things were happening, and Keith and the guys with the Newcastle Fans Consortium were taking legal action with their own QC on under grounds of trade restriction. And then you were hearing that they were getting a bit of backing from people within the consortium, and then you heard then again that PIF were back at the table, but were letting Mike Ashley take on the challenge. Then you heard the Premier League when they released a letter to the Newcastle Fans Consortium that they were already in legal litigation with Newcastle United as a football club. All, as Liam said, all the dots started to join. So I think the silence is great. I think we should not be seeing it play out in public. I don't think, unless there is absolute hope, I don't think Mike Ashley goes and gets somebody like Nick DeMarco and the lady, the QC lady. I forgot her name now. Shima. I can't remember her name. You guys probably know her name. But he's hired Nick DeMarco, one of the best QCs, if not the best QC sports-wise in the world. Guys never put a foot wrong. So I don't think you do all of that, and you don't hire a QC like that if you have absolutely no hope or potential of being able to get that deal across the line. And I think with regards to the Premier League, with what's happening obviously in your great country Saudi and in Qatar, relationships seeming to geopolitical differences seeming to come back together and things being worked out, which we hope happens.
Good news.
Good news. And the BN deal, let's keep it as a positive. Takeover being played out in the background. And I think one big thing at the end of the day, I've always remained as part of my faith in this deal happening, is at the end of the day with somebody like PIF and the guys in Saudi, money talks. And I think somewhere along the line, a deal will be brokered and we will see this takeover go through.
About Nick DeMarco, do you think what's going on with the food pictures?
I don't know. I mean, I know Spenny and I know Nathan and Daz are really good at joining the dots. I'm a bit older than those guys. My brain takes a little bit of time to work. I look at the pictures and I just need bread and Guinness. So like I'm quite easily pleased.
Even Alwaleed, he likes to analyze it.
At the beginning, but lately no, actually. At the beginning, I thought there was something with the bread and how to divide the bread, but no.
Yeah, I think
now we reach the steak now.
Yeah, I think what we need to do with the takeover is just, I think we'll always get asked questions, and it's for me, obviously, I want it to happen 100%. I want my club back. I want to be able to have hope, and I want to be able to have a future that, I'm 50 years old now. I've been supporting Newcastle since I was a kid. Been going to games since I was 16. And other than seeing us win the championship a couple of times, I've never seen us win a trophy. I've gone to 2 cup finals, against Manchester United and Arsenal, against Manchester United and a couple of others, and I've seen us lose. And that's albeit it's a great day out in Wembley, losing is not nice. So I'd love us to see us lift silverware somewhere along that. But more so than anything, the likes of my sons who are getting into sport, my youngest who's getting into football, I want them to have the longer term hope that with PIF and Amanda Stavely and the Reuben brothers and the good people of Saudi, that longer term we have a club that we can all be really proud of, and we can see glory days come back to those terraces and to the fans who wear black and white shirts.
Are you gonna ask me a difficult question tomorrow on Matchday Live as a safe act?
No, as if I would do that. No, I'll be concentrating with Daz on just keeping the show together without any hard questions. So hopefully a win. It would be nice to have a win.
Yeah, I really hope we win, because the next games is very difficult.
Yeah, we need 3 points.
But tomorrow, as you said, we need to. I remember you saying before in the show with Steve Rate, the clubs who came from Championship, we need to send them back. We need to win against them at least, so we can still in Premier League stay in Premier League.
Points with those around us. Look, we've got a really good squad. We just need to get the right formation. We need to get the stability, and every good team that does extremely well in any league, really, Championship, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, all of those teams that do well and win championships and win games, they have this real core spine of a team. So they have a really good goalkeeper, they have a top class defender, they have a really strong midfielder, and they have a striker who can get you 30 goals. And if you have those 4 key players and you build good players around them, you'll win games. But you've got to have a good coach and formation, a belief, and you've got to have a philosophy and a style of play. We should be better than Leeds, but we need to have a philosophy and identity, and we need to start getting that identity. But
exactly. Elvis was the last question. Yeah, that was last question. Yeah.
We are glad to have you, Martin.
Thanks very much for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
We hope when we see you next time after PIF take over Newcastle. And as a MAGA people say it, make Newcastle great again.
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly it. If the takeover happens, we're all coming over to you.
Yeah, inshallah.
And we are gonna do the show idea about learning Geordies and Arabic.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do that.
I like that idea. We are really glad to have you, Martin.
Thanks very much, guys.
Enjoy the night. Sorry for becoming more long time, but it was joyful to talk to you.
Yeah, great questions and great host, guys. So look, again, I said at the start, I'm honoured to have been asked on.
Yeah, me too.
I'm very, very privileged to have you guys as friends. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. شكرا لكم على المشاهدة. يتجدد لقاءنا الأسبوع المقبل مع برنامج نيوكاسل مع وليد.
Martin is a family lad and a Newcastle supporter over 35 years. Season ticket holder until 1999 when he moved to work in Dublin, Ireland. Nothing matched Martin's passion for football like his passion to rugby. And one more thing, Martin is famous in imitating popular celebrities. You can see Martin in UFC Matters shows with Steve Reed in Matchday Live and worldwide in UFC fans around the world.
طيب كيف نيوكاسل؟ تابعت السنة هذه ولا لا؟
لا صراحة ما تابعته.
لا بأس كويس، بس فريق ينقص أشياء كثيرة. أشوف إنه والله ستيل عليه على قولتهم مشاكل كثيرة في الدفاع.
أمانة لا والله ما تابعت، لكن أشوف السعوديين يعني في حرص كبير إنه بعد ما تتم الصفقة إن شاء الله شراء النادي إنهم يتابعونه يعني.
مين فريقك في الدوري الإنجليزي؟
أرسنال، تشيلسي، البلوز.
شجعنا أرسنال.
توتنهام.
ان شاء الله اذا تمت الصفقه، وهل ممكن تسافر نيوكاسل وتحضر مباراه هناك في ملعب سان جيمس بارك؟
نحضرها ليش لا؟
مثلا نيوكاسل وايفرتون الموضوع بيشدني شوي. في امكانيه ان شاء الله.
اكيد واي نوت احضر.
في حال تمت صفقه شراء نيوكاسل من قبل صندوق الاستثمار السعودي، هل راح تشجع نيوكاسل؟
شلون صعب صراحه. قدام تشيلسي لا، بس الباقي
مستحيل طبعا، لكن بيكون تقدر تسميه الفريق ثاني يعني. اكيد القلب ما دام ان الفريق السعودي اكيد اني بشجع ان شاء الله ضمن
يمين.
لا ارسنال
ما في لا مباراة ثانية غير ارسنال.
اكيد راح اهتم انه والله مثلا يلعب نيوكاسل.
طيب لاعب سعودي تتمنى تشوفه في نيوكاسل او في الدوري الانجليزي؟
عمار صغير ستيل على قولتهم عنده قدامه يعني مشوار طويل.
مين تتوقع بطل الدوري الانجليزي هذه السنة؟
سنة السيتي للاسف.
كيف شايف المدرب ستيف بروس مع نيوكاسل هذا الموسم؟
ستيف بروس انا والله ما تابعت على قولتهم، كنت اتابع ايام هال سيتي، كان يعني يوصل الفريق للميد تيبل على قولتهم. يس يعني ما هو ذاك المدرب اللي والله مثلا يمكن كابيتالايز انه والله مثلا يعدل من اوضاع الفريق، عنده على قولتهم خطط انه والله مثلا يعني ما وصل مع مثلا هال سيتي ولا مع ساندرلاند في ايام يعني، وايام كانت الفرق قويه هال سيتي وساندرلاند، ما وصل وقدم معهم يعني على قولتهم المواسم. اعتقد انه هبط اظن ساندرلاند، كان هو مدربهم بعد لما هبطوا ساندرلاند اذا ما خاب ظني. فكان مدرب يعني كويس لا باس فيه، يعني من التيبيكال انجلش على قولتهم مانجرز زي سامال دايس وزي اللي قبله الان باردو. اعتقد الان باردو كان كويس، كان حريص جدا ويجيب لعيبه فرنسيين. كمدرب الحين موجود يمكن ايدي هاو مع بورنموث كويس صراحه. ممكن يحتاج الفريق على قولتهم مدرب عنده يعني مدرب صغير عنده افكار. خلاص نيوكاسل تشبع من المدربين الانجليز اللي هم تيبيكال والله بس وصل الميد تيبل وخلاص. فيعني في مثلا اعتقد اللي حق هوفنهايم اللي الحين ماسك لايبزيج شو اسمه هو نيجلسمان اعتقد او شيء زي كذا، يعني ون اوف ذا بيست موجود ويانج وقاعد يوصل الفرق بشكل كويس.
طيب رافا بينيتيز محبوب في نيوكاسل.
اي رافا كويس يس، بس انا ستيل يعني ما اشوف انه والله مثلا مقارنه بالحين. فعلا الفتره الحاليه هي فتره مدربين صغار عندهم نفس وعندهم والله خطط جديده يطبقونها، لان الحين فعليا اللي قاعد يعني يظهر في الكوره كلها خطط جديده، التيبيكال 442 والاشياء هذه، الخطط القديمه
عاف عليها الزمن.
خلاص عاف عليها الزمن، وفي نفس الوقت يعني صارت الامور اعقد من انه والله مثلا يكون فيها خطط تقليديه، لازم والله يكون فيها على قولتهم خطط جديده. لهذا قاعد نشوفه مثلا مع جوارديولا مع ارتيتا مع كلوب، هذا اللي قاعد نشوفه الحين حاليا.
Cisse! Oh, that is sensational!